Hi, I'm Jordan from 10 Speed, and today we're going to be talking about thriving in a bad market. Today we will be talking again with the CEO of 10 Speed. And also, before we begin, I'd like to invite you to subscribe or to follow any of our social media platforms listed here. Hi, Henricas. Welcome again.
Hi, Jordan.
Okay,
Nice to see you
so
again.
yeah. So today we're going to be talking about thriving in a bad market. For you, what is a bad market in the trucking industry?
Yeah, it's a struggle. I cannot lie. These past 2 years for our customers and users were extremely challenging, but that is part of the business.
Yeah.
I think a lot of trucking businesses have experienced it before. Um, some of my friends have been running trucking businesses for over 20 years, so it's not the first and not the last time. And trucking is a cyclical business. And what you have to do is just prepare. Be aware that there is going to be a bear market and you have to get ready. There is a lot of things you can do from the expense side, saving side, and you just have to prepare. But with that said, it's going to be a struggle. Every recession, trucking recession will be a struggle. But if you set everything right, all your cards right, prepare for it, I think you should be okay. And we had a lot of companies going out of business, but a lot of them were brand new businesses as well. And I have friends and I know people in the business that are still making money, not as much as they did a couple years ago, but they're still making money, and there's always a way to survive.
Yeah, that's for sure. Everything is about how to stay competitive and how to maintain yourself within the market. So now with the bad market that a lot of companies have been vocalizing that it's really, really bad, supposedly there's a light towards the end of the tunnel, right? About going again into probably not what was in 2022 in that time of the peak, but there's going to be an outcome that will be of great benefit. So now to understand, is there any signs of when industry is going to enter a bear market from being on top of the world going to, oh dang, what am I going to do?
Of course. So there is a lot of great analysts who are dealing with millions of lines of data. So they can tell. So even before this recession, I remember data analysis firms giving warnings that there is a recession coming. Not a lot of trucking companies believe that, but there were early signs. So you have my recommendation for trucking companies: be aware of what's happening in the market. I know this business is tough and there's constant problems day to day and doing all operations, but just spend a few hours per week looking at the sources, looking at what the data analysts say, and just be aware of what's happening, and you can spot these signs. But even with that said, in reality, nobody knows exactly for certain.
Yeah.
There is many factors, and the business is complex, and the market is complex. There is many factors at play there, and all you can do is just optimize your operations as much as possible, control your expense at the business level, and just prepare. You can never go wrong by preparing in advance.
Yeah.
And another key point: when there is a bull market, everybody wants to expand.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So there is a huge risk as well with overexpansion.
Okay.
Yeah, so don't get too many trucks too fast.
Okay, so now leading into my next question, when there's the bull market where everything is in abundance, what would be, like, I guess, your advice to those carriers that see this amount of money, crazy money, what do you recommend them to actually spend it on, or what to save it on, or what to invest on?
So a good rule, no matter what kind of business you are running, but especially in cyclical businesses, is to prepare your emergency reserves. Trucking is not a business where it's critical business like banking, where there's going to be government bailouts. Unfortunately, there were some checks written on loans from the government during COVID times, but in many cases there is not going to be any bailouts.
Yeah.
And when there is a downturn as well, getting money from the banks is extremely difficult. So the banks and loans will not help you as well.
Yeah.
So what you have to do, just simply save for a rainy day. That applies to any business that you're running. So my recommendation, just with all the profits that you're getting, just save 30% for an emergency reserve, and throughout the bull market, just save 30%, invest in high savings accounts, treasury bills, treasury notes. Just keep that buffer of cash. And when the next bear market hits, it's going to help you immensely, because you'll have cash of your own, and there is many opportunities and purchasing opportunities during recessions as well. So for those that save diligently, even if you're not making any money, if you optimize, you can survive easily the recession, and you can even get ahead of it, through it, even better off, because there might be some buying opportunities as well. You can get cheaper equipment when others fail. You can buy equipment for cheap. That's good opportunity as well.
Yeah. So in my research, before the recession began, the capacity was to the max, but a lot of them were owner operators and that are no longer running their trucks anymore. But there's also carriers that were forced to close down during the recession. What would you think were the mistakes that carriers did in order to not survive?
Yeah, that's sad to talk about. So many companies went out of business, but in reality, there is no one way to do it. Everybody has to find their own way, because transportation, trucking is a huge market, and there is a bunch of niches in there as well. So there is no easy answer or easy way. All I can provide is general advice. So for those smaller operators that were mostly operating on the spot market, during the bull times, you can make a lot more money on the spot market if you book loads efficiently. But during the bear market, spot market is actually very inconsistent. You are forced to take loads sometimes at below cost, if you know your numbers, of course. So what some of our customers did, during bull times, they worked on building great relationships with their customers.
Yeah.
And they were tracking consistently how much revenue they're getting from contract and how much they're getting from the spot market. And those companies that were successful, they managed to derive around 70% of their revenues from customer relationships and having these customer relationships, and less on the spot market. And during these tough times, those companies that managed to maintain good relationships, they didn't squeeze their customers too much. The customers rewarding by giving them decent enough rates to operate at break even or a small profit as well. So I think building relationships with your customers is key. And you should not forget that, even if you can make more money on the spot market. And another key thing is those companies that knew the number of how much it costs you to operate and drive a single mile, did much better as well, because they were able to refuse loads on a more consistent basis, and driving above cost.
Yeah.
So knowing that number is key as well. And you can do that manually, just adding everything up, dividing. There's great AI tools to help you, great spreadsheets you can find. Of course, software can help you with that as well. But just knowing that number as well is key during the tough times. You don't wanna, you have to maintain your cash flow and you have to maintain your cash balance, pay the leases. So you should be able to book at least at break even and not below, and that will be immense in helping you maintain cash flow and survive in this market.
Yeah. So the takeaway point on this, in basically what could be possibilities of mistakes, is not being able to understand their numbers and trusting too much or relying on the clients that they already had and not strengthening them. So now comes to those companies that have been surviving. Yes, in what I've read and what I've been investigating, a lot of these they're still operating with very thin profit margins. They're just surviving. They're still using what they were able to gain during the peak of this time. So now there's many options to continue on to keep thriving, but in your point of view, you could do your numbers, you can do everything that you can in your power to create a niche, to gain those connections. But what more can you do in investing within yourself to grow?
Absolutely. Uh, of course, I'm a little bit biased, but I truly believe that technology is the way of the future. And constantly investing in better tools will help your business immensely. And you have to look at it from the investment perspective. I have heard great successes of companies utilizing the new AI tools coming online as well. Uh, that would help build better relationships, analyzing your numbers. So there's great, very cheap tools that you can use, even if you're running on just spreadsheets. So just plugging these numbers into some AI tools can help you immensely. So, and just back and forth conversation, just bouncing around ideas and seeing what it suggests can help you optimize further. And of course, having great software to help you run your business can also help you immensely, because a lot of things that you need to do, you need to have people doing that for you. And smaller operators just don't have enough margin to hire dedicated people to some roles. So you cannot hire a dedicated CFO, for example.
Yeah, that's true.
And of course, ways to hire contractors, freelancers, fractional people. There's ways to get around that. But what software allows you to do that, especially good software built to provide lots of value for you, it can give you those insights that very experienced operators, financial gurus would give that if they were working for you, but you just cannot afford that. So that is critical. Having great software is critical of maintaining your payroll so it doesn't get too much ahead of you, and that payroll and amount of people that you maintain to run your fleet can bite you very much during the bear market. And the less back office people you have for the amount of trucks, just tracking that metric is super important. And that's what very large companies do. They keep that in mind and look at that metric constantly. And if they are able to optimize, do more with less people, that's super critical to maintain good margins.
Yeah, that is for sure. But now here comes the question. When is the perfect time to implement this software? Because you said in the beginning, don't go be spending a lot of money when there's a lot of profits, but then there's no money to spend when there's minimum profits. So for you, what advice would you give of when to implement?
There is no better time than now. So implementation takes a long time of figuring everything out, choosing the right vendor. So the sooner you start doing your research, the better. The purchasing decision doesn't have to be immediate, but the more time you spend analyzing what is beneficial, what is not, what fits your business needs, the sooner you'll be able to purchase. And normal bear market doesn't last more than 12 months. And I've seen cases of people looking for great software for a year, 2 years. So my recommendation, of course, start as soon as possible. Even if you think you cannot afford it, look of what is available. And even better, don't be afraid to look at what big players are doing and what software kind of is giving you, and you can replicate some of that in your own on just spreadsheets. So that can also, doing that research can give you ideas of what's a good way to run your operations versus to what you're doing right now. So the more research you do, the better. So of course, do your research, and you can make that purchasing decision when you think you are arrived at that point where it makes sense financially.
Okay, so now moving towards when does a company know that, okay, I should start investing more in software? Because, like you said, some companies already operate with certain systems, probably very minimal systems like spreadsheets, probably just communications on various applications like Telegram, WhatsApp. Um, but how do you know when is the time to upgrade or to find an actual system that could cover all of that to grow?
I would say that at each level of company size, there is a bottleneck that's limiting you.
Okay.
So if you are maybe an operator of operating just 20 trucks, right? And most likely what you're doing is you either use something very cheap, just basic type of software, or maybe you don't have any software at all and you're doing everything yourself, just minimal expenses. And just breaching that barrier, you have to start hiring more people for dedicated roles to expand beyond 20 trucks. And that's just adding a single person, it's a big expense. The profit margins are low. It's a really big expense for you. So you really have to think of hiring more people that can do more roles rather than specialists. And that's a big barrier. But if we have just 2, 3, 4 people in the back office maintaining 20, 30 trucks, that is much easier to do without any software than to do with more people. So I would say once you start having 6, 7 people in your back office, there is a lot more possibility to make mistakes, miscommunication, managing the team. Someone's working remotely, some not. At that point, you can start feeling the impact of scaling your business, scaling the amount of trucks and work you have to do to maintain your fleet and do everything that needs to be done. And at that point, this is the breaking point where software can start helping you of making less of these mistakes and can start giving you much bigger ROI. And usually how it goes, the more people you have in your company, the more you will experience these growth kind of troubles, and the more software will be able to help you. So I can see a way of operating more than 100 trucks without great software. If you might think you are efficient and you are able to generate even profits and everything, but you will never be as efficient with great software. You just don't see that. If you think you can run a great business above 100 trucks, you are not seeing what is possible to do.
Now going to we've all seen the news, the people that are in the trucking industry, how major companies of decades longs of service, many fleets, um, that they just closed down. They
Yeah.
couldn't maintain themselves. You would say that they had all the software in the world, all the money to grow, to expand, to maintain themselves competitive in the market. So seeing that, but there's other companies that have been able to maintain themselves with software. So what's the balance, or like what could have been certain issues that could have arise during that time that could have affected their downfall, but the others to continue on. So from there, like, okay, how far can technology take me?
Technology is not all powerful,
Okay.
for sure. But you have to understand with these giant companies, they are titanic essentially. So they are such a huge operation and with so many legacy systems and processes, and you just cannot steer that ship basically. Every kind of, you can turn your wheel kind of as much as you want to the left side, it's just gonna move 1 or 2 degrees to the left very slowly. So these companies were kind of burdened by their existing legacy processes. Most likely they had some sort of custom software that they were using optimized for them, but they just couldn't turn around their ships fast enough to survive. And also you have to understand, if you look at these companies, they had so much debt. So majority of what killed them is an insane amount of debt, which they just weren't able to repay. So debt management and how quickly you can pivot is key. And a smaller trucking company can change their processes in a day, in a week. They can maybe change their software in 3 to 6 months. And that is enough time for you to change something significantly to be able to make more money. But an operator of like these gigantic companies that went under, if they want to change their software, it might take years to do that. And in a lot of cases, it's legacy software as well. So you really have to understand software to software. So any type of software is not equal to another.
Yeah.
So just the speed of ability and the flexibility to change is what helps smaller carriers be more nimble and survive.
So now, specifically on the software, are there any software tools that you would recommend? Not, you don't have to say like the brands or stuff, but just like the tools in general that could help to continue thriving during these times.
Yeah, so of course, the basic one is having a good telematics provider. That gives you a lot more visibility and ability to understand what your fleet is doing. So, at the minimum, you should invest into a good telematics providers, and there's good ones on the market already. Then having good financial understanding is key as well. So if you can have a good accounting system that can help you track expenses in real time every week, and having good payroll systems as well, that's also critical. So expense management. If you have cash flow problems, it might make sense to have a good factoring partner that can give you faster turnaround on cash flow as well. And of course, having a good TMS is critical as well. That will help you manage your operations and communication with drivers, getting PODs faster, turnaround, delivered, so you can bill faster. There is many ways it can help you as well. So that's kind of the basic that a lot of carriers know that already. And each of those, so I would first start with a good telematics provider, good financial tracking operation, and then TMS. And on the smaller stuff that is much cheaper, but that can help you a lot, is having a good mail provider.
Okay.
Surprisingly, a lot of carriers still using either Hotmail or something cheap. So either go for Google Workspace or Microsoft Outlook, just invest $5 per user into a good mail provider, and that will give you consistent communication with the customer. So you can maintain good customer. I have seen so many scenarios where email goes down, you cannot respond to customer. That helps you build good relationships. So
Yeah.
that is also the minimal requirement. And the latest kind of technology, look at AI tools. There's so many around. Don't underestimate of what it can do for you. So just sometimes you have like 10 or 20 problems that you see as a business owner and operator, and you just don't know where kind of should I spend my time with.
Yeah.
So a good AI tool, just bouncing off ideas, can give you good suggestions of where you should focus first, what's the next problem and optimization, and maybe what you need to be optimized. You don't know where to start. That can help you. So there's many great tools around, and there's good CRMs with AI-based tools as well that can help you maintain better relations with customers, give good status updates, see what's happening. Yeah, so that's my recommendation.
To finalize this talk, what would you recommend companies that are listening to what FreightWaves has announced a couple months back, that the light is close in this end of this recession? What should they start doing to prepare themselves in order for the next recession? Because, like you said, it's a cyclical business. It's going to happen again. There's going to be a down. But what should they do in order to prepare? And when should they start preparing now? Or do they prepare when they start to make the money, basically?
So you should be prepared and kind of continuously try to optimize what you do at your company all the time. So, like I said, there is no better time to do it than now. But my advice is, with all the data that we are seeing, is there's not gonna be a very rapid growth in rates and the market. It's going to be a slow recovery. So we're gonna close this year in 2025 with maybe plus 8% on the market. The volume's gonna increase by about 10%, the rates by about 8%. But that is good because it's going to be a slow and healthy recovery. And that will set us up to have a great market for the next 5 to 6 years.
Okay, that's
of
good.
a great kind of slowly increasing bull market. So don't expect fundamental shift this year, and you should start preparing for a slow recovery. And in that case, start preparing now of how you're going to improve your processes this year and what you can invest that new cash flow that is going to come into a slow and consistent growth in your company. Like I said, first of all, start preparing and saving an emergency fund, start building a cash buffer, start optimizing your processes, and start investing, preparing for the next downturn. So that's my advice.
Okay, well, that was a good advice for anyone that is listening and is probably in very thin margins and is trying to grow, get out of this, and look for a brighter future. Thanks for the talk.
Thank you very much.
Also, we would like to hear from you. If you have any good stories about a good recession or a bad story of some downtimes during this time, we would like to hear from you. So thanks for watching.
Thank you.